wasn't like a traditional street race.
Yeah, it was November 16th, 1998. I remember it as if it were yesterday. That day I had come home for lunch. My wife and daughter were at home, enjoyed lunch with them, and I had to go back out and do a couple more jobs, and they had left and had gone across the street to the shopping center.
It was on Hillsborough Avenue, and Hillsborough Avenue is 3 lanes of traffic on each side, and that day there was a bit of construction that had slowed traffic down to a crawl in 1 lane. And as traffic opened up, it went back to 3 lanes, and it was sort of rural at the time down that track of Hillsborough, and so we managed to go from 15 back up to 55.
Back out of my complex, the area that I lived in, and I remember seeing black smoke over the houses, and at first I thought it was just a house fire, but then as I got closer to the road, I could tell it was from a car crash.
As I sped up, another car started to speed back up rapidly with me. And 55 turned into 65, which turned into 75, which turned into 85, and farther beyond.
At that moment, something just came over me, and I thought, I need to go check this out. It didn't feel right. I drove and parked my truck right near the crash scene, and part of me is in my mind thinking, no, I'm hoping it's not what I'm thinking, that, you know, possibly my wife and daughter were involved in a crash.
As we were going really quickly down the road, there was a brief flash of the gray van crossing my path. And it was sort of surreal at that moment because time almost slowed down. And instead of like the thrill of just going fast, all of a sudden my body sort of went rigid, and I think my eyes actually closed as I sort of braced for the impact that I knew that was coming. At the actual impact, I was knocked out. When I came back to, there was smoke and fire everywhere. I ended up crawling out of my passenger window, and I fell to the ground. That was like a movie scene. It was something that you see that doesn't really happen to you. I can't say much was going through my mind because everything was going through my mind. Every possible outcome, every possible reaction, amazing amounts of guilt and panic and joy that I was still somewhat of alive.
Once I got a view of the vehicles burning, I could see that one of the vehicles was my van.
On my way to the hospital, I remember being told that Cindy and Chelsea had died.
Right then and there, I mean, I realized, you know, I had lost 2 most important people in my life. The state decided to charge Justin with 2 counts of what they called back then as vehicular homicide, which means he killed 2 people.
Which equates to 15 years of prison each. I was 19 years old at the time, so that would have put me out of prison about 49. I pled guilty to 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter, to which I was sentenced to 2 years of house arrest, 5 years of probation, 5-year license revocation, and a few hundred hours of community service. It cost my family upwards of $100,000 in legal fees to help protect me. It's a real high price to pay for a street race.
I got to learn more about this young man that had killed my wife and daughter, and he was not a bad kid. He was a good kid, came from a good family, had just completed high school, had a couple of scholarships, was going to go to college. He had a bright future.
Each and every decision that we make, you are absolutely 100% responsible for. Whether it's getting up in the morning and brushing your teeth or deciding to drive your car at 100 miles an hour down the street, the end result of your decision is yours. I can't say that with any more sincerity or honesty. Everything that you decide to do is yours to carry. When I decided to street race that day, I'd spent 19 years of my life doing the right thing. I had a very bright future ahead of me for everything that I had built. And effectively, one decision that I made that was poor erased 19 years of work.
An alternative sentence, rather than him sitting in prison for 30 years, was how about, he'd go around to the high schools with me, talk to other kids about making the right choice when they get behind the wheel of a car.
What I think that I regret the most of this whole situation is of course, 2 innocent people losing their lives.
There's too many crashes like this.
Just think it through and give it a second more, because you don't want to regret it.
I killed my boyfriend. It was a Sunday. It was February 8th, 2009. It was just a normal day, and we used to hang out at my house on days off and just play games and normal stuff. And towards the end of the night, we decided we would go out to the bar. And this was a normal thing that we did, going out to the bar. We were all underage, we all had fake IDs, and at the time, I guess, we thought it was the cool thing to do. After leaving the bar, we decided to go to a friend's house. We went to a friend's and we hung out there and played our games and our card games and our drinking games. And leaving her house, we decided to go home after all the partying, and it was my boyfriend in the passenger seat. My friend Sean was in the back seat. He had asked me for a ride home that night. And we were driving down 49th Street, and it gets really blurry. It's hard to remember everything from that night. We had a group of friends that were driving right next to us, in the car next to us. And when I was driving, I decided to try and pass them, or they were trying to pass me. And I can't remember. And then from that point, it just kind of gets black. And, the car just starts spinning. So the next thing I remember is waking up, and Ryan was on top of me. And my car was flipped sideways into a building. I just remember screaming. Telling him, we gotta get out. The people in the car next to us, they got out and they helped us. And they pulled Sean out of the car, and then they pulled me out of the car. They took us to the hospital. And from that point, really, the next thing you really remember, I wake up in the hospital and they told me he was dead.
One person is dead after an accident in St. Petersburg, and police are trying to determine exactly what caused the horrific crash. It happened at around 2 o'clock this morning at the intersection of 49th Street North and 34th Avenue.
Driven by a 19-year-old girl, spun out of control, and by the time it came to a stop, her boyfriend was dead.
I didn't believe it was real. It's hard to believe. It's hard to comprehend. I was the driver. I didn't hit. He was in the passenger seat, and I didn't hit any other car. I hit 3 signs, and my car landed into a building. No. Ryan and Sean were the only ones that were truly injured. It's been 10 months since my accident. 10 months and 6 days. My charge is DUI manslaughter, DUI serious bodily injury. My charges, I believe, worth up to 20 years. If I could go back, I would say, knowing now what I should have known then. I regret ever getting behind the wheel that night. because of my choices, I killed my boyfriend. You know, everybody really thinks that they're invincible, you know, you never think it's gonna happen to you. It could happen to you. And to make the right choices and no more partying, and it's not the life. Make the right choices. 1 second can change somebody's life. One thing that you do, one wrong turn, anything that you say. So just, you know, take responsibility for every action, everything you do.